Holly Hireman, and let me ask you a question. Have you ever experienced something like this? You decided to go on a diet, it's Monday, and you go to work and there are donuts. And you say, no, I'm on a diet. I'm on track. I'm gonna handle this appropriately. And then at lunchtime, somebody asks you to go out to lunch. Now you packed your lunch. You brought a healthy lunch with you. So you say no, and you resist once again. And then you get a phone call when you get off of work and someone invites you out for dessert that night. And then you say no, and you're feeling really, really good about yourself. And then all of a sudden you get home, you've been eating healthy all day long. You get home and you don't know what happens, but you become this ravenous beast where you start shoveling all kinds of food into your mouth. Now, if you've never experienced this, then first of all, I'm totally jealous because I've had to go through this several times in my life. And at that point, you're like, what am I doing? I was so good all day. I resisted the donuts. I resisted the invitation to lunch. I packed my food. I resisted the invitation to go out to dinner tonight, but then I totally blew it when I got home. So what happened? The answer is your willpower. Your willpower has run out for the day. And that just brings about a great question is, can you increase willpower? Because we can only do so much on our own throughout the day in order to resist temptation, to push things off. But the good news is there are ways that you can protect your willpower to keep it intact to work toward specific goals. And I read this great book recently. It's called Succeed: How We Reach Our Goals. Fantastic book. And it covers the whole psychology behind goal setting and why some people seem to be just achievers. They just go after everything in their life and they always achieve. And then other people seem to always have a roadblock, or maybe you can identify with this, where you are such an achiever in one or two areas of your life and you just go after it like nothing else. But then there are a couple areas of your life that you just can't seem to gain any traction whatsoever. This is because your willpower is just like a muscle, and just like any other muscle, it can become very fatigued, as well as it can become strengthened. So it's our goal to teach you, to show you, and myself included, I've been working on this myself, how to increase your willpower. And is it possible? The answer is yes, it is possible to increase your willpower. Now, there are 3 very specific steps that you can take in increasing your willpower. Number 1 is to recognize when you are low on willpower. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are resisting a cake or cookies, or if you are resisting going out for drinks with your friends, or maybe you're resisting going on Facebook because you really need to get a project done. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what types of things that you're trying to avoid. All it knows is that when you're tired, and that willpower muscle will become fatigued, and it's a lot more challenging to achieve anything, or you just kind of like, I'm sure you can identify with a feeling where you just kind of like, oh, forget it, right? Or maybe with disciplining your kids, right? You reach a certain point where you're just too tired. You don't want to fight anymore. You don't want to argue with them. You don't want to explain why one more time. So you just throw in the towel. Oh, forget it. Just give them what they want, right? So many people can relate to these types of feelings because they're human. But the good news is we don't have to give in to them. So the first step in increasing your willpower is to first be able to recognize when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling stressed, when you know that you've had a particularly exhausting day. Maybe it's emotional, maybe it's mental, maybe you've had to do a lot of work on the computer. But to recognize those moments. And then step 2, do not tempt yourself when you are running low on fuel. And by the fuel, I mean when you're running low on any type of willpower. So that can be focus. It can be a mental focus. It can also be your emotional fuel, how you feel in the moment. So it's really important to keep tabs on that, first of all. And then second of all, try not to tempt yourself. So don't go to a party where there's going to be all kinds of food there that you know that you can't resist if you've had a particularly stressful, very, very long, very emotionally draining day. Because if your goal is to lose weight or be healthy or get more rest, then that's probably not going to be the answer for you. And then the third step is to identify why power. Now, I heard this really cool analogy. I think maybe it was in a book. It was talking about, your willpower is only going to get you so far. What gets you to the next point is to develop your why power and to figure out why you are doing certain things. What is at the core of your particular goal? What are you going after? And I can put it in this. This is a good analogy that I like to give. Let's pretend for a moment that you come home after a long day and you pull up. There's fire engines everywhere. You see that your house is on fire. Now, you probably have zero willpower in order to go in there and maybe save your pictures, anything like that. You're like, okay, the house is on fire. It's blazing inferno. Nothing's going to make you go in that house, right? It's dangerous. Now, the firefighter comes up to you and says, we've been able to get out 2 of the family members, but there's still, your son is still inside, or your child is still inside. There is nothing that's going to hold you back from jumping headfirst right into that inferno, because all of a sudden your why has become bigger than your fear. All of a sudden your why has become larger than your reasons to not fight, right? So developing your why power is extremely critical, especially when you're going after a goal that maybe you've set for yourself a million times in the past. You've never been able to reach it. When you're going after that, what probably has been the missing ingredient is the underlying reason of exactly why you are doing it. So the more clearly defined why that you have, the bigger your why power will be, the bigger your willpower will be. And you know what? Over time, the stronger that muscle will become. And then all of a sudden, those things that used to trip you up in the past, they don't anymore. They don't bother you anymore because your willpower has grown so strong and you've just grown accustomed to relying on that. And those things aren't such a temptation anymore. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it served you well. And if it did, please comment below. Have a great day.